Hey, Adam, it's been a month, I guess,
I
since
know,
I've really
no kidding.
connected with you, right? Rob, is that about right?
Yeah.
What's the vibe right now in your office?
Tell you what, it's countdown time. I mean, we're getting there. Got May, got a month to go. Everybody's itching. Everybody's ready to roll. I mean, students, teachers, heck, the administrators, we're all just counting down. Let's get ready. Let's get done with this school year.
I've worked with about 8 administrators so far in the month of April,
Mm-hmm.
and their faces were just spent. They're planning out, trying to close this year, trying to open up next year already. Evaluations, walkthroughs, and staffing,
Yep.
you name it, they are
Yep.
all over it. They are drained by all means. They are drained with all their energy. We've got, sometimes people call it the May slide. In fact,
Mhm.
one of the rooms I was in, remember those construction paper links?
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
have them together.
Yep.
They're doing that till the end of the year, and I kind of like, there's something in me that kind of cringes a little bit with that. I know everybody's tired, but there's the words fight, finish strong just come back to my mind. We got to finish strong. And I know it's a little trickier than the normal, maybe as far as May goes. What's the vibe like in your district right now?
Well, it's like I said, maybe I haven't seen the paper change yet, but we're all ready to be done. I can see that. But, there's still a lot of stuff going on. You've got your seniors, some are senioritis ready to be out of there. Some of them are realizing that, holy cow, life's going to change here in about a month. And I'm not quite ready for that yet. So, yeah, I mean, there's a slide. We're starting to smell the charcoal. We're starting to see the beach and all that good stuff that's coming out there, too.
Well, we're gonna focus today on how do we keep the wheels turning and keep them securely on the bus, if you will. So I'm looking forward to this next podcast coming up, especially with our esteemed guests we have.
Let's do it.
Welcome to Control+Shift+Lead, recorded in the Forward Ed Network studios, the education leadership podcast for those ready to take action. Hosted by Jim Wichman of Inspired Edification and Adam Busch of AWB Education and Media. Leadership isn't a title, it's action. Discover how to take control, drive meaningful change, and lead with purpose right where you are. Take command, drive the shift, lead the way. This is Control+Shift+Lead.
Welcome to the May episode of Control+Shift+Lead. I'm Jim Wichman from Inspired Edification. I'm joined here with my pal and former colleague, Adam Busch from AWB Education. As we just teased, May is a unique beast in leadership.
Yes, it is.
To help us navigate it, we are joined with two incredible leaders in our roundtable today. Dr. Jeremy Braden, and I got to tell you, it's always cool for me to be able to say doctor from his name because I know how long he's worked for that. And Dr. Jill Urich. And what's special about Jill, we go way back to Ottumwa, Iowa, and it just, whenever I have a guest that is connected to Ottumwa, it just sends a little bit more energy through my spine. I love it. Hey, Jeremy and Jill, thank you for being here. We really appreciate
thank
it.
you both.
Before we dive into too much more of this, could you take, Jeremy, 60 seconds and just kind of introduce yourself, and then Jill right after him?
You bet, Jim. Thanks for having me, Adam and Jim.
Mhm.
Jeremy Braden. It does take some longer to get their doctorate than others. I was at the, if you don't get this done, you won't get this done stage. So I got it done. 10 years. My doctorate is older than three of my 4 children. So I have 4 daughters, ages, 6th grade, 2 in 3rd grade, and then 1 in 3-year-old preschool. My wife is a 1st grade teacher, and I am a superintendent entering the end of year 5 right now in central Nebraska. So appreciate you guys having me on. I've learned a ton from all of this. It's like old home week here for me, reconnecting with tremendous colleagues. So thank you.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
Okay, thanks.
Now, central Nebraska, I assume central Nebraska, Jim, we're probably supposed to come with some joke from Iowans for that piece, but we probably let him slide for that today.
Well, I'm going to tell you for a hot minute because I spend a lot of time in western Nebraska. So I drive through, I'm pretty sure I drive through central Nebraska. Eyes aren't always open at that time.
To most people, anything past Omaha is western Nebraska. We are past Lincoln. So as a former Iowa resident, I can relate to some of those like western Nebraska, central Nebraska things, but salt of the earth people all around.
I was just going to say, Adam, the drive might be a tough one, but the destination and people in Nebraska have been outstanding. And that's coming from a big Hawkeye fan. They have been outstanding to me.
Oh, good. That's awesome.
Hey, Dr. Urich, why don't you go ahead and
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Hello, I'm Jill, and I am currently an administrator in Ankeny, Iowa at Ankeny Community Schools. I serve as Director of Post-Secondary Readiness, and I am rounding out, I think it's my 34th year in education, and June 30th will be my last day. I am retiring and immediately rewiring as I launch my own leadership coaching and consulting business, and could not be more excited. And I have all the feels right now, right? And just when we think about leadership in May, I have that just so intensified at this time because of my own journey. And I have a daughter who is a sophomore in college, and I had the unanticipated blessing of being her high school principal. And so this time of year, I'm always reflecting back too on what that experience was like as a mom. And May's a special time for schools, and it doesn't have to be the crawling to the finish line moment, right? It can be, if we embrace it, it's all about mindset.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you, both of you, for joining us tonight. This is great.
I got to tell you, when you say, talk about your daughter, I had the pleasure of being her principal for a couple of years as well.
Yes, you did.
One of the short little videos I released spoke about a principle that sometimes it's best to not be extra. And I remember for that young lady, I was really extra, and she had this look upon her face every time I was that shut it down right away.
Same.
Yep.
Yep.
The young lady with that look.
Yep. My oldest thought it was really cool until I was chaperoning prom. Then it wasn't cool anymore.
See, and
Jeremy, what you have to look forward to.
Well, and I will say that is by far the highlight. One of the highlights of my job is having all four of my children in the same school. And just being able to see them in the hallways, see them in preschool. I mean, all the things. So I wouldn't trade that for the world.
No, it is a gift. It's a gift.
It is a gift. Hey, we've got a powerhouse panel tonight, and I just am so excited about this. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll dive into our first segment, something we can control right now, and we probably don't know it. So stay with us.
You're doing incredible work in your classroom and community. Isn't it time the world heard about it? Welcome to The Commons, a dedicated podcast channel on the Forward Ed Network, built specifically for educational professionals like you. We provide the platform at no cost. You bring the ideas and the passion. We provide the reach to share them with the field. Ready to start your broadcast? Ready to share your knowledge with others? Email us at admin@forwardednetwork.com and join the conversation today.
All right, welcome back. We are going to jump right into our first segment here, our control segment in the show today. In May, there are still levers that we can pull to try to help stabilize our schools. And so, crew, here's our first question in our roundtable format today. You ready? What is one thing that leaders should stop doing right now to reduce noise and help their staff finish the year strong? Anybody who want to take this one, run with it first?
Yeah, I'll jump in.
All right.
I think something leaders should stop doing is stop counting down to the end of the school year. Stop looking past the school year and instead just be present, because May is just as important as every other month. And maybe even more so. Jim talks about finishing strong, and you can't finish strong if you are starting to de-emphasize the importance of every day and every relationship and every conversation. We already live in 2 school years as leaders because we're planning for next year, but we only need to talk about that when we need the voices of the people who are with us until the last day of school. But other than that, let's be present, because people need us to celebrate and value each and every day with kids and staff.
So what I hear you saying is something similar to an earlier podcast, and it's like, slow down, be present. When you want to go faster, it's vital to make that time to be intentional with, just pump the brakes a little bit and be present. Look around
Yeah.
you.
Well, it's a marathon, right? And if you're running a marathon, you don't fizzle. Well, hopefully you don't fizzle. Hopefully you've trained for it. You don't fizzle in the last mile, right? That's when you got to keep your rhythm and your breathing and your focus to cross that finish line strongly.
And I think too, when we think of education as those moments, the learning that we're doing versus chapters in a book or getting through the curriculum, right? I mean, in theory, we never stop learning, so we never really finish anyway. You're just taking a break when summer comes along. So plowing ahead to get to that finish line for us to take that quick break is very important.
I'm going to share one more thing and then I'll shut up. Um, you know how it feels when you're in a restaurant and it's 15 minutes before closing time and they're clearing off tables, they're mopping the floors, they're starting to turn off lights. That doesn't feel good as a customer. So I think, what message are we giving our students when we're taking down the bulletin boards and we're cleaning off the
Great
shelf?
analogy.
I like that.
Great connection. I
know?
can connect with that.
Well, and I think just to add on, I think the thing to stop doing is stop being in your office. And while there are multitude of things to be done, whether it be budgets, whether it be staffing, all of the things that we can all do, those things can also be done when kids aren't in the building and when staff aren't in the building. So I think about, start in a antithesis version of that. Start being aware of the needs, objectives, and challenges of others. I think of kids, I think of teachers with anxiety about the school year ending and how your presence and your demeanor that should be the same as January, as it was in November, as it was in September, to finish strong in that way. And then I think one of the things I thought of, Jill, as you mentioned, that is learning for kids is on a continuum. It's not on a calendar. Former elementary principal I worked with, so spot on, because and I have the privilege of having my own students in my school. So I think of, well, geez, is that one of my twins' time when they're going to master the math concept, is on that third to last day of school. And if we don't finish strong, that's the challenge, is we leave some on the table, so to speak. So I would totally agree with both those.
We can't control those aha moments. We don't know when they're going to happen. So that's a great point, Jeremy.
So you said learning is on a continuum, not on a calendar. And I think that's over and over again when we have to get through the curriculum, or do we want our kids to learn the standards? Two different things. Mm-hmm. And when I hear you speak, Jeremy, it's about learning the standards, learning what the intention is. And that speaks loudly to us. And I also would say, so if we're going to be present, we're going to be out of our office. Why don't we celebrate the journey that that's happened over the last 8.5 months or whatever the case is? I mean, my goodness, we always are looking at what more thing we can do better, one more thing we can do better. How about all the things that we've done really well? I mean, education, a lot of times it gets kicked around anyway. Why don't we stand up and start celebrating and start telling the narrative about what's happening in Ankeny, what's happening in central Nebraska? Because there is a lot of good stuff happening.
Yeah, you're right, Jim.
Sometimes we just pass it away.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jim.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the celebration piece, I think oftentimes we are our own toughest critic, where we don't stop and celebrate. Mm-hmm. And then it feels like we're never accomplishing things because we continue to do things. And so without that time to celebrate, we cannot be filling up our own gas tank or feeling a bit empty as well.
Do you think part of that, Jeremy, is the fact that educators in general aren't very good at celebrating their own things? Feels like bragging. We don't want to do that part. We want to stay humble. We want to just do the right things for kids. But you're right. You don't see people do that very often, or when we do, it feels a little superficial.
Yeah, I think in education we're great at identifying at times deficits and trying to close the gap on those rather than identifying strengths and accentuating those. And I think identifying what we have done well and celebrating that while still being aware of that the job's not finished, to your point earlier. Like, we're never done with the learning. It's ongoing, and we're never able to put a stamp on that until graduation. But even then, we're on to the next thing. And so I think finding ways to celebrate the strengths and the accomplishments is especially critical at this point, knowing all the work that everybody's done in order to finish strong.
I think of Jill, I think of that time working with you, I don't know what you didn't celebrate. And I think, I just think of that energy that came across all the time. I mean, Adam, you were down the hallway from her.
Yep. Yeah, but that is a unique trait of Dr. Jill Urich that not a lot of people can do. They can't pull that off. That's certainly something that you did on a daily basis.
You're very kind. I'm just thinking, I think the way I celebrate is by tapping into the leadership of everybody that's around me, if that makes sense. Like I
Hmm.
celebrate by engaging them because I don't have all the answers. And so it's inviting people in, right, to the conversations and celebrating them.
Yeah. When you are empowering them as you're doing that too.
Yeah, I think that's important because it's not about me. It's about us and who we're serving and um, maximizing the gifts of people
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
celebration.
Well, crew, that's great insights. Tell you what, that's a good start. That's certainly something that we can control. And I like that question, something we can stop doing right now. So, all right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back again with our shift segment as we come back after this commercial break. So hang on, folks. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Hill, a longtime educator of nearly 40 years as a teacher, counselor, professor, and vice principal, and I've seen just about everything public schools can throw at you. And now I'm sharing my tales on my comedy podcast, Vice Principal Unoffaced. It's where school leadership meets laugh out loud stories. From underwear required parent teacher conferences, yes, really, to staff lounge confessions and more, you won't believe. I'm telling it all with humor and a whole lot of heart. I also tackle the serious stuff too, like what schools really need to change and those behind-the-scenes moments no one talks about. So if you're ready to laugh, learn, and maybe even cry a little, but mostly laugh, join me and my 90-year-old mom, my unofficial co-host, on Vice Principal Unoffaced. New episodes drop bi-weekly on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast fix. Trust me, this is one detention you'll actually look forward to.
We are back with the shift segment here on Control+Shift+Lead. We're looking at moving from survival mode into intentional design, being obviously just what it says, being more intentional. So here's our question for our group this evening. How do you move your team from end of year reflection into actual change for next year without it becoming just another conversation? You know, that checkbox feel.
I like that question.
Great question.
As I was sitting there, I can start us off on this one. When I was sitting there thinking about it, and over the last few years when I've been having those end of year conversations with teachers, it's the usual. It's well, how'd your goal go this year? And half the time I'm sitting there thinking, do I even remember what it was that you set as a goal when we talked 8 months ago? Which just shows how impersonal that particular approach is. But those conversations have really shifted over the last few years to, maybe we might talk a little bit about it, but we're already talking about, the future and what I want to do next year. And I used to kind of stop that. And then I realized that that's actually the growth piece we want. That's the part where they're reflecting on what they've done. And I stopped getting in the way of that. That's probably the best thing I've ever done, is just get out of the way, stop talking, let somebody else just roll with.
Yeah, it makes me think of, Charlotte Danielson's framework, right? That it's that rubric, the continuum, and we never fully arrive. And so I think embracing that idea that you don't have to have a brand new goal next year.
Yeah.
Unless it's what you need, right? But you can keep going. A question I love to just noodle on with a teacher is, how are you different today than you were a year ago? And then how will you be different a year from now than you are today? And just to help thread one year to the next and just keep people focused on moving forward. Learn from what you've done, but it's about the progress and the process and how you can keep that going.
I think when I think of the question, and this is my 5th year down from Trumbull, so everything that's happened in the last 5 years I own, in good, bad, or indifferent, which is very humbling at times. And so I've thought, especially because next year will be a school visit or state visit accreditation, and I've thought about it in terms of, okay, are we in a better place now than we were 5 years ago as a result of the things I've done? And that's the scary thing when you start digging into that. And I think the thing that, in response to the question, to me, as a leader, I often get stuck or paralyzed even in the analysis phase of like the PDSA cycle. So plan, do, study, act. So when we're studying or planning and we're looking at data, it can be overwhelming. And so one thing, and through the gift of AI, this has been super helpful in taking some of our staff survey data. Obviously, everything's unidentified and so forth, but getting some trends from our staff engagement and then being able to take action and even if it spits out, for example, we took some of our staff engagement data, put it through, got some trends. We talked as an admin team, and you know what? That's not something we can really do because it was around feedback and we wanted it to be authentic and not transactional. So it's like, you know what? Let's throw back in there, give some prompts and walk through it again. And now we have some potential solutions or action items that now we can map out our action plan so we don't get stuck in the data. We know what it is, and now we can develop our action plan to go forward into next year rather than getting stuck in the mud a little bit. So that's been a big piece for us, and that's not something we've done well all the time. And I think anytime you have data, it's important that you're taking it, but it's more important that you're using it for improvement. And so that's been a big piece for us this spring is just really trying to push through that.
So when I hear both of you guys talk, or all three of you actually talk, it's like you're taking the information or the goal or survey, whatever the case, and you're moving away from gotcha kind of mentality to a growth mentality. So it's like it's that. And then when I hear Jeremy talking about it, it is, and I see this a lot, but it really kind of hit me here. It's like we're scared of our data instead of taking our data and owning it and doing something with it and being focused on the growth. We're almost scared of it, I guess. And sounds like you just said owned it right away. It's scary because you're like, but then again,
it's scary and intimidating because you don't know what it's going to say.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's easier just to be like, man, I'm paralyzed by what this might say. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make some assumptions. And we know what can happen when we make assumptions. It's not going to end well. We're going to have different reads that we should be. And really presuming everyone's best effort and best intentions, look at the data, make adjustments, make plans, and launch into the new school year with actions in place. And for me, it's most often important to have some sort of integrity checklist or some sort of plan follow-up. Like, here's our lead measure that we want to attack and use that. So we have that in place when we walk out of the building. And my admin are on 11-month contracts. So when they walk out in June, we have to be ready to start the car that we're going to drive in August.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Jeremy.
a good shift right there, Jeremy. I'm sorry, Joe, real quick. That's a good shift right there because I think you start talking about lead measures, lag measures. I think a lot of people, you talked about paralysis there. We get to we see the data and then it's like, now what? Like we don't even know where to begin versus that, okay, we're going to have an intentional plan before we even look at the data. We're going to have a path that we're going to take forward once we see where to go. So sorry, Joe, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but that's a really good point.
No, that's okay. I was just thinking about what a gift your district has, Jeremy, of you modeling that, like embracing that vulnerability and that idea that it's progress over perfection. And because then you are showing teachers and students that it's all a journey, right? From point A to Z. And it's okay. It's okay when your data is not perfect. It's what you do with it that matters.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Jill, you were talking about Danielson's rubric there and how it's like in a flow of growth and it's helping us articulate. One of the things that I know that some staff members struggled with when I used it is when we would start something new to them, like intentional interventions, what it looked like and everything, people didn't really know what that looked like. So by rubric, they might have slid back on something new on the instruction part there, but that's what's supposed to happen. But the fear of that, talk a little bit about that, what you saw.
Well, I think part of it starts with the collaborative partnership where there's hopefully trust between the administrator and the teacher so that when we're setting goals, they feel safe to select goals that are supported by rubrics that they might not earn a distinguished on in that year or even proficient on in that year, right? Because it is about embracing growth. And it's always going back to where on this rubric are you living on a day-to-day basis? And then what does that mean for what's next? So I do think it starts from the very beginning when we collaboratively determine those goals and assume, right? Like you should assume that they're at least proficient on all of them, but which ones do you need and want to get better at?
Yeah, I mean, it can be overwhelming if we're trying to do everything all at once.
Right.
But it goes back to what you said, though. if you don't have trust with the administration, or if the system sets up the evaluation process as a gotcha, or if you are not at this stage, then you're on, whatever that negative mark is, then it becomes just tainted always. So that trust has to happen all along the way with that. Yeah. If we were to put all that together, we must have that trust and really kind of not be scared of the data, and then do something with it, because it's all about the progress and anything else. That was great. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a break here. We'll be right back with our final segment of on leading through the checked out season with our two guests, Dr. Braden and Dr. Urich. So stick around, folks.
This segment is sponsored by Grunmeyer Leader Services. Since 2013, GLS has been a trusted partner for school districts across the Midwest, specializing in executive recruitment and leadership support. They believe that great schools start with great leaders, and they are here to help you find a perfect fit for your district. Transform your school's future with the right leader at the helm. Visit GrunmeyerLeaderSearch.com to learn more. Grunmeyer Leader Services, transforming education one leader at a time.
And a real quick thank you to our sponsor, Grunmeyer Leader Services, where they do try to find the best leader for your school district, whether it's a superintendent or a principal. They are there to help you find the best fit for your school. So a big thank you to Grunmeyer Leader Services.
Yeah, Trent is what I like about Trent is he's very personable too.
Oh, yeah.
So he makes that whole process just as smooth as possible. He listens to people and so forth. And I can't imagine that the rest of his associates don't treat people the same way.
Great team, great people. You're exactly right, Jim. They're gonna do the work for you, which is awesome. Because I'll tell you what, it's not an easy job to go out and find the right people these days. Well, I'll tell you what, crew, we got one more segment left. It's time for our lead segment, talking about presence, talking about influence. We got the finish line in sight. I know we're talking about that here in the month of May, but it's also, like we talked about earlier here, like Jill said, we still got school year left. So here's our question for segment 3 for us to think about. How do you lead and inspire when your staff and students are already mentally in summer?
I'll take a crack at this one, Adam. I think when I think about this question, I'll be honest, I struggle with the inspire part, because I don't know that I show up trying to inspire, but show up as trying to lead. And inspiring people can be a challenge depending on, everybody's bringing their own things with them. And so I think that can be often a challenge. But I think when I think about this question, I think about, being present continues to be a theme at the end of the year, just as if it's your goal to be present in September, you want to be present in May. And if staff are itching towards that finish line and need some support, whether it be with student behaviors or whether it be with communication or whatever it is, being present so you can move that salt shaker back, if you will, in terms of, reset that table. Like, what, we're here for kids. It's the end of the year. Learning's on a continuum, all of the things we've talked about, but you want to reset the table to say, okay, here's how we do things. This is how we have to lead with our best selves. This is how we have to be present for our kids. And our staff are there for kids. They're trying, but they're also bringing things to the table. They're also trying to finish the year strong. It's not anyone's fault for it, but it's just our presence can help sometimes be that third point, if you will, to like, hey, let's bring this back. Let's remember our purpose. Let's remember why we're here and here for kids, to make sure that they have all of those learning opportunities. But it's our responsibility as leaders to make sure we're out and we're present and we're where our feet are at.
Sometimes just got to be. Just be there.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be for any point or any reason, just be. Yeah, that's good.
I'm a visual person, so I'm visualizing Covey's time matrix in my head. And that quadrant 1, is the emergency needs to be done right now quadrant of tasks. And then quadrant 2 is the strategy and the relationships and the proactive planning. And I always think this time of the school year, very easy to think everything is in quadrant 1. Like, oh, we got to get this done. We got to get this done. The last day of school is almost here. And I always think, okay, first of all, if there's no blood and there's no fire, it's not an emergency. And then this time of the year, I add another statement to that. It's, does this have to get done before our students and staff leave us for the summer?
That's a good point.
Because sometimes we think we've put things in that category, and if we just stop and take a breath, it's like, it doesn't have to be done by the last day of school. This is more of a strategy thing, right? I can put this off, or work on it a little bit, but it doesn't have to reach completion. I also think relationship wise, I think it's important to find those moments with staff members where we recognize what they're doing right now that aligns to the vision and the mission. So, finding that time when you see them, I don't know, helping a student where they're going the extra mile, or they've made some proactive communication to a family, whatever, fill in the blank, and just say, gosh, do you see what you did there? That was amazing.
Yeah.
And it aligns with our shared beliefs. And so filling them up in their work so they stay focused, or maybe they feel inspired. And in that same conversation, shift it a little bit and say, what do you have planned this summer?
Yeah.
What are you going to do for yourself this summer? And so then you're living in both worlds with them, but you're keeping the focus right where their role is in the organization and in the building and in the classroom.
That's amazing. What I've just heard there in maybe different languages, but we're going to check in with people.
Yeah.
We're going to be real and authentic. We're going to reassure them. And I think of, I'm a big believer in the DISC personality profile. So my language isn't everybody else's language. So when I do check in with them, I'm going to check in using their language and whatever that might be within there. And then I like how you kind of leaned in there, Jill, about what you can do for yourself. Not the general vacations or family. What are you doing for yourself? Question that I don't know if people really sit there and ponder about. What am I going to do for myself daily, let alone over summer break or whatever break it is?
And I think it's important that they think about that, right? Because they're pouring into everyone else this time of year.
It makes me wonder if one of those end of the year or April, maybe even staff meetings is that's what we're going to do. We're going to make a list, pause right there when everybody's at it. Here's your assignment. What are you going to do for yourself?
Yeah.
I like that, Jim. I think the other thing for us to think about here too is, we have a lot of people that are excited about summer, but we also have a lot that aren't.
Yeah.
And as we're starting to talk with students and staff for that matter, there's some where summer isn't a great time for me in my life. And just being aware of that as you're having those conversations, it could be that they're excited, or it also could be that we're dreading it. I remember years ago at a smaller urban district here in central Iowa that I worked at, that was having that conversation, typical younger administrator, hey, what are you going to do this summer? And I just saw the panic looked in the face of the student. And, it took a little bit to get through that wall, but figured out that summer just wasn't a great time for them. Food was very scarce during the summer. Wasn't really sure if and when they might be by themselves at home, all summer long. I realized that my role at that point in time was to prepare them for the end of the school year to get them through, but also try to get them as much confidence moving into summer that they got this, they've got those skills, they have the strength to be able to get through that part. And can't wait to see you next fall when you return.
I think about Jill's comment about connecting to the positive in a conversation last week and the skill set of people. And it's a range of certified teachers, classified staff, et cetera, that everybody at this time of year it's been a long year, and there's been ups and downs, and things and messages and communication can come in a different way than what is intended. That impact could be very different. So I think, Jill's comment is both a challenge and reminder to myself to think about, how am I going to be proactive in connecting with those folks? Because our classified folks, the anxiety is real there because there's no paycheck June, July, and not until August or September. And even for our certified staff, there's so many challenges in a year to be present and recognize and communicate with them and take a time just to be in their space allows for some of the guard to be down and allows for those relationships to occur in a meaningful way.
Good idea, Jeremy. I like that point too.
The being real, being present, being authentic. I think if we want to do anything for our staff at the end of the school year, actually all throughout the school year, if you really want to think about it, is just keep that pattern rhythm. And how do we model it? I mean, it's just keep it consistent throughout the school year and speaking their language, not necessarily your language.
I love it. I love it. All right, crew. Well, that was pretty good finish to our lead segment here. We'll take one more quick break. We'll come back, wrap this up, get a chance to chat one more time before we end the May edition of Control+Shift+Lead. So hang on, everybody. We'll be right back.
Where is your kid headed after high school? We are from Carpool to College, 2 accomplished educators, college and career consultants, and parents who guide families through the entire journey, from freshman year planning to senior year success. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
We've covered a lot today with Jeremy and Jill, a lot here at Control+Shift+Lead. And I got to tell you, Jill kind of said this on one of our breaks there. It's just invigorating being around people that not only do we have a past with when it comes in education, but it's actually thinking about how do we support our educators? Because honestly, that's one of the things I like to do. I try very hard is to keep people in the game and make sure that they know that they do matter and that they are not alone, even in the tough times. And so when I'm with these people, you, Jeremy, Jill, it actually does something for my soul as well with that. So
I agree. That's amazing.
There was a lot here. So if you could do your best, Adam, to try to capture something for each one of the Control+Shift+Lead for our audience to kind of summarize it up.
Well, yeah, we'll see how good of notes I was taking here, Jim. So I believe in control. Biggest things that we talked about were stop counting down. You got to be present. Be present in those moments. We're on a continuum. We are not on a calendar. Got to remind ourselves that there really is no end in sight when it comes to education. We're constantly learning. So stay on that continuum with your staff and your students. For shift, how are you different today than you were a year ago? Think about that as you're having those conversations. If you remember, our question was how to move that from just being a conversation into some real meaning to it. I'm going to focus on progress over perfection, and you got to have that trust. So if you're in that leadership seat and you're trying to work those conversations with your staff, got to have that trust to do so. And then lead, be present, be there, be real, be authentic, be there with your staff and students. Don't forget that part too. But that's the biggest part. Be there, be present.
So Dr. Braden, Dr. Urich, thank you so much for being a part of this. If our viewers or listeners want to get a hold of either of you, is there a way that they can do so?
Absolutely. My website is public now.
Mm-hmm.
It's jillurich.com. So I'd love to hear from you on the website. There's a link to send me an email from there.
Perfect. How about you, Dr. Braden?
Easiest way to get a hold of me is email, and you can just go to dtcardinals, all spelled out, all lowercase, .org, and you'll get my work email. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. If you ask around enough in central Nebraska, you may also be able to find somebody that has gotten a hold of me before as well. So now, always willing to help. I think the one thing I would say is that comparison is the thief of joy. So don't compare yourself to any other leader. Just be who you are, man.
Love it.
Or woman.
We're all in this together.
Dropping nuggets left and right.
I know.
Gosh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is definitely not going to be the last time that we see the two of them on our podcast. That's for sure. More than anything else, it's May. We know this. It can be a little tricky to navigate. And here, Adam from AWB Education and Jim Wichman from Inspired Edification, we want to make sure it's very clear. Please reach out to us if you need anything, because no matter what, under any circumstance, you're never alone. You got 4 people sitting right here that are always willing to jump in and help out. And of course, remember, you matter. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks for hanging out with us today on Control+Shift+Lead. If you enjoyed the show, there's plenty more to discover in the show notes, including ways to connect with Jim and Adam, or even launch your own educational podcast. While you're there, take a look at the other amazing shows on the Forward Ed Network. They're doing incredible work sharing the stories of educators everywhere. We'll see you next month. Now,
Go out and control, shift, and lead your school.